Making indie games is all, fun, but unfortunately, it costs money, or at least you need to eat during development, which means you need to get money. And there's a bunch of different ways to do it, and one of the most traditional ways would be publishing. And the question is, though, does publishing really make sense? Because we've had some rough years, I would say, but I'm here with Rita from Critical Reflex, and I want to just ask you the one big question. Are game publishers back, or maybe they never even really went somewhere? How is the state of indie game publishing right now in your eyes?
Well, I would say that for Critical Reflex, we're definitely doing one or two things differently. I would say that normal publishers have their shit together. They're very organized and do things neatly on the pipeline. We are the chaotic gremlins that do things differently, and hey, it seems to be working, right?
Yeah, because you had some pretty, I feel like you've only had bangers in the last few years, basically, with games like Buckshot Roulette, which I'm pretty sure everyone here knows, Mouthwashing as well. There seems to be more of a horror focus. Is that the case with Critical Reflex? Because you now have the spin-off as well? Or how do you see it? Do you only focus on horror mainly? Or is it that's what we're good at, so focus on that?
Well, we do have something we call a sub-label, which is called Sierra Channel. And honestly, it's not a strategic idea. It's me being sleep deprived at 3 a.m. and thinking, hey, I have a bunch of horror games. Why not merge them together and market them together as well? So definitely 2024 was the year of horror for us, and we did have some amazing releases. But if we're looking at the whole catalog that Critical Reflex has, it's not really horror. It's just weird games. Weird in different ways. We do really love genre blending titles. We love games that have unconventional graphics. We just, we really love working with developers who think differently and basically, dream and bleed weird vibes, I would say, because we are a vibe-based publisher in the end of the day.
That is a very different way, I feel, than the traditional publishers, if you just look at the vibes. What are you really looking for here then at Bit Summit? Weird games in general? Or what's the main goal? Do you come into these events, we're we're gonna sign 4 games or whatever, and then it's a successful event? How does success look for a game publisher, basically?
Well, I mean, can't speak for other game publishers, but for me, good event is when I had a good time. As for signing games, you cannot put a quote on it, because at one event you can find 10 games that you're really into, whether you're signing them or not. But some events you just hanging out with friends and meeting industry professionals and having fun. So for Bit Summit, it is personally my favorite event. I've been to Bit Summit, I want to say 4 times now, maybe 5. I'm bad at counting. I have people that do that for me in the company, don't worry. But anyway, so for Bit Summit specifically, I just really love Japan. I love the vibes. I feel like here, it's one of the events when you can really talk to the devs, with the pace that you want to. You're not forced. You don't have 25 meetings like you would on Gamescom. So to me personally, it's just about visiting my favorite event, not gonna lie. So if we end up not signing any games, I'll be fine. But I did see some great bangers here, so hopefully we'll come home with a victory or 2.
So you mentioned you saw some bangers here. What makes a game look interesting to you? Because I feel like you've also seen some big L's in terms of people who are I have the best possible game idea, and you look at it as I don't know about this one, Chief. Do you have that as well? At what point, what's the magic that a game needs to have to a certain level before you seriously start considering yeah, we can do something with this, versus go back to prototyping because this is not going to be it?
Well, one thing I can say for sure, if the game is very safe, if it stays within its genre, not trying to do something new or different, I would not be interested, even if it's great quality. Because I feel like right now and going forward, it's going to be harder and harder to sell games that just repeat themselves in a way. So as for describing a perfect CR game, that is a very challenging question. Because what we champion is not just vibes, but also pattern recognition. We do playtests internally. We look at games internally, but as soon as I see a game that I like, not that I like it as a player, but I see something, it's very hard to describe. So I would say just be different and don't try to play safe, because playing safe doesn't work in 2025 anymore.
Yeah, so basically the wackier the idea, the better it is for you as well. If
I would say so, yeah. Of course, it should make sense because sometimes when you fuse too many things together, the game may become a game design nightmare as opposed to just, fun little fusion. So it's all about experimenting. And of course, it's all about like actually making the game you want to make rather than trying to like repeat success or like, oh, let's take Balatro or something, of a similar scale and just repeat. If you were uninspired when you're coming up with that, it's just not going to work.
Yeah. So let's hypothetically, I don't have anything to pitch you, but like let's say I'm working on a weird vibes horror game. At what point in like development should I start considering like, okay, now I want to start pitching to publishers? Because like day one, I have nothing to show for you. I have no pitch decks or whatever. But I feel like, if it's like 1 month before release, it's like doesn't make as much sense. Like what is the sweet spot timeline basically for you to like pick up games? Because I know a lot of developers also underestimate often like how far into the future they have to look of like, yeah, we're all full of like 2025 games already. We're looking for 2027 is something I've heard before. How does that look for you? Like what's the ideal point that someone should be like, hey, I have a weird game. Let's start going to these events like Bit Summit or Gamescom or whatever and just book meetings?
Well, first of all, you don't really have to book a meeting with me or someone from my team to pitch us a game. Thankfully, we have a form on their website. But getting back to the question, so as for the how long should you develop the game before coming to us, it really depends on the game, right? So when it comes to just a prototype, not even prototype, when you just have an idea or like tech or like GDD, that's probably too early unless you already had a release that supports that you can deliver on the concept. Generally, we take a look at prototypes or demos depending on how polished developers want the game to be for us to see it, because there's also different levels of anxiety. I want to polish it some more. But it's really not the case of us wanting a super polished, amazing product to make a decision. We can spot if it's something we're into pretty early on. So I would say just as long as you feel that the prototype you have is playable, even if it's very short, if it describes the idea, if it helps us understand what's going to be fun or like terrifying or basically what your game is about, then it's enough for us to not necessarily make a decision right away, but at least provide feedback, let you know if we're interested, let you know if maybe we are looking for you to like work on it a little longer, just to get a yes or a no from us. But yeah, like whenever you have a playable, that might be a good time to reach out. Please do not do that 1 month prior to release. I will, if I want to work with you, I will likely ask you to move release, not because I'm a mean publisher, but I want to truly have some time to work on it, marketing wise, to give love to your game, to do all the boring QA and localization stuff as well. So it's not a deal breaker if you're really close to release and you have something amazing that people haven't seen so far for one reason or another. But yeah, we prefer to have a little more time to for the game to really shine.
I think maybe something as well for context that I think a lot of developers also don't really understand is like, we're here at Bit Summit, let's say I pitch you my game, I'm not gonna walk out of here at the end of the day with like a deal usually, right? How long does it take from that like first point of contact where you're like, okay, I want to show you my game, to Critical Reflex actually being like, here's the bag of money, go and make the game, so to say? Like, because this is something that takes months often, right? Because you have to do your internal playtest, you have to do all of that. And I think a lot of developers, they like don't plan for that. They're like, oh, we make the vertical slice, and then we pitch it, and then, oh, the company has gone bankrupt because we didn't know we had to wait this long. How does that work with like Critical Reflex?
I would say that it really varies. Sometimes, especially if you happen to make a game that is very Rita coded, you can get an offer super fast because at the end of the day, I am the one making a final decision. If I really see something in it, I'll be like, let's go. Although you will not get a bag of money right then on your PayPal or something. Usually it is around a month for us to process the game fully. Sometimes if we hesitate too long, then it means that it's likely a no for us. If there is no one in the company that would kind of protect the game and like battle for it, because we do debate about games as well, then it means that no one is passionate enough for us to sign it. So I would say average is around a month. Sometimes it is faster, but sometimes we, as I mentioned before, may ask you to do something else or like show us another feature that you have planned but haven't implemented just yet, just so we have a better understanding of what's to come. So
the plan, dear viewer, is just to psychoanalyze Rita in this and just make a game for her and nobody else?
Please do, yeah. So ever since I was a kid. Anyway, the games that we have on our portfolio, for the most part, are pretty Rita coded. And in my previous interviews, I also mentioned the titles that I would want to sign. So if you have an OS simulator that feels very cursed, please talk to me, on Twitter or something. I'll be happy.
I think one other question that is always the debate of like, oh, I want to get a publisher. Like, should I put the Steam page up, yes or no? I think for a long time this was always like, oh, you don't want to do that. You want to give that to the publisher. But then we saw a lot of games that were just never going to get a publisher because there was no funding a few years ago. So they were like, fuck it, we'll just put it up themselves. Does that matter for you? Because you are losing out on that like first announcement press beat. Do you see it as a red flag or maybe as a green flag of like, hey, they have enough of a game to get a store page out maybe already? Or does it really just not matter? Just put the store page up there?
I would say it does matter, specifically if you have previous games up your sleeve. So then it would just be easier to kind of prove, like you have a proven track of record, right? So I don't want to really give it advice here because it's okay for me either way. Like if we get a game that wasn't announced, I'm like, okay, great, we got to work on that announcement beat. But it was never a deal breaker for me, really. Like if the game page is up for 6 years and the needle is not moving, I would be concerned. But it might not even mean that the game is necessarily not good enough. It might mean that developers didn't really do anything to promote it. But to some publishers, it may be very much of a red flag if your page is up for too long and nothing is happening there.
I guess it's kind of, a gamble you take as a developer of like, okay, I can not put the Steam page up and let the publisher decide, is this going to go good or bad? First, you put the Steam page up and you get 10,000 wishlists in like the first day. It's like, okay, probably the publisher is going to be more interested now versus I get 200 wishlists. It's going to be dead on arrival. Is that, I guess, the best analogy here? Where you're shifting kind of the risk from the publisher to yourself if you put that store page up?
I would definitely say that if you're putting your store page up, you are committing somewhat to doing some work. So if you're not planning to do anything whatsoever, no social media posts, no like developer updates on the page, then you might just want to wait. At least try to talk to a few publishers to indicate initial interest and then make a decision of putting up a page or not. But yeah, if you plan to do absolutely nothing, that maybe just putting a page up, not really going to do anything for you, because people think that Steam will like naturally promote your game when you put a page up. It doesn't do that. So unfortunately you have to bring your own traffic for it to move the needle.
Maybe one more thing is like the elusive pitch of like, I have 30 minutes with you, I want to show you my game. Like, what's like the perfect pitch for you in terms of like format? Does it actually need to take up 30 minutes or enough in like 5 minutes? What are like some key facts that you want to get hit on in that presentation, basically, of like, cover me this? Because like there's stuff like also like, oh, here are 4 similar games that came out 5 years ago and all made $10 trillion. So of course my 2D pixel platformer in 2025 is going to make that same amount of money. I feel like that's probably like a less useful slide to have on your pitch deck, for example. Which are the ones that you like are personally more interested in, and which are the ones that you're like, you can just leave this stuff out?
Well, yeah, I mean, honestly, the comparison to the titles that released like 5 or 10 years ago is my favorite slide because it's sometimes very funny. But if in all seriousness, I think a very strong elevator pitch, like high concept of your game, that's something that is super important for me. Like some visuals that showcase, various parts, especially if your game does have like different styles of visuals or whatever, like just show as much visual stuff as you can. And the budget, that's 3 slides I usually check first, and then if it makes sense, then I would study further. Of course, gameplay features and things like that are important, but facts about your team, if you don't have previous releases, generally doesn't matter that much as a first impression. Same goes for like analyzing the market. Like, I'll do that for you, honey. Like, don't worry. Like, we will make sure to check it. But as for the information about the game, just be as precise as you can. Like, don't go into a lot of details about the story or world. Like, it wouldn't matter to me right now, like at the first glance. Like, it surely is something I will be curious about, like, on the next step. I love asking questions about the narrative and the world and the in-depth mechanics that are there, but I just want to have like a very clear understanding what the game is like. And if you cannot really convey that to me, then you need to take a step back and figure out what are you developing really. As for the format, I would suggest like definitely, like normally key art first slide, then short information slide that does need to feature elevator pitch, then just break down the features, like what the game, you can describe your gameplay loop, you can list features, just so it really just please don't put features that, exist in every game, like you can walk or like, you can attack. Just, the fun
rebinding.
stuff. Yeah, you can rebind controls. There is a subtitle feature. Then, showcase graphics. Ideally, if there's a video, whether gameplay or, some edit of it, doesn't matter. Screenshots as well, like GIFs, whichever format you prefer. Then you can briefly talk about the story if it's like really important and prominent in the game. Like, of course, you can still talk about it. It matters more for narrative games. Then the budget and how long it should take you to finish the game, like based on your estimations. Budget breakdown is very important as well, especially if you're asking for quite a lot of money. Like, I will have questions.
What would you call quite a lot of money? I think that's an interesting one that I was going to ask you anyway, but like, you probably don't want to do a deal for 25K. It's like, I'm not going to get out of bed for that. What is like the somewhat like average deal size? Like, is there like a minimum of like, if it's less than 100K, don't bother coming to us, go find another way?
Oh, no. There is no deal too small. Like, if a developer needs $5,000, like I will likely give a little more for sure. But like, it's not that I would not get out of bed for 25K. The quality of the game doesn't depend on like how appealing it is to me. Doesn't really depend on the budget. I'm not going for huge titles because all of the games that I work with for the most part are quite small, made by smaller, more focused teams, even solo devs. So I would say that we have some titles that are over $500,000, let's say, but we're averaging on smaller budgets. I do not want to bet too much on one game. That like we did have a successful year, but I want to scale up like in a very healthy way. So we will likely focus on smaller titles. But if your budget makes sense, like we'll make sure to find another partner to help us fund it. Like if it makes sense for you to ask for like, let's say $2 million, but it's not in our normal range for sure. But if you have a budget of 25K, it's not a problem too.
That's an interesting one, because I think you're one of the first publishers I've spoken to that has had that approach of like, if it's sub 50K or whatever, we're still interested in it. I feel like for a lot of publishers, it's more like 100K minimum and things like that. One thing as well for like, I have my budget slides. Do I put one big number on it? Or do I have like 2 or 3 options of like, if we get $500,000, this is like the gameplay that we envision, but maybe you can't do that, or like not every publisher is down for $500,000. There's like a cut down version, it's like 200K, we can still make this come to life. Is that like a red flag or a green flag when they put that? Because I've heard like differing opinions on this, where some publishers like just give me one number, whereas others do like that more a la carte approach.
I feel like I'm in a car dealership when I see this kind of slide, when I have 3 options, like, oh, do I want like heatable seats in my car? I feel like it's a little odd, because I would say it is a bit of a red flag for me, but not because you want to, have options, but because it means that the developer might not have a set vision, because it is important to have very solid vision of what the final game would be like. And if you can, split it to parts, that might not necessarily indicate that. But in any case, I would say that if we really like the game, but the budget seems a little too high for us, we might talk to the developers to see if it can be reduced in one way or another.
Maybe one final question, because BitSummit and Gamescom are like very hot spots for like publisher meetings. You have that form that you mentioned earlier on like the website. Does it actually go somewhere, or does it just like go to a junk mailbox? Because that's, I think, the feeling I have with a lot of like these publishers. Like, you have to find another way, either through these physical events or stalking people on LinkedIn and trying to find out like where they live and sending them like a game CD build or something. What is like the real ideal way, if you can't come to these events, to reach out?
Please don't come to my house. As for the forum, we actually check it on a weekly basis. There are times when we may not necessarily see a potential in the game right away. We do try to mark it and like kind of revisit it later. So it's never too bad to reach out again. But also just sheer volume of people that are applying means that we cannot necessarily get back to you and, just let you know that we are reviewing it, or it's a no for us. So please don't hate us if we didn't get back to you. Obviously, the forum, if you have something incredibly curious, you can also reach out to some of our team members on Twitter or something. Show us a tweet of your game, and if we like it. I actually had a post on Twitter, I think like a year ago or something, when I shared my dog pictures in return to developers showing me pitches. So you can find a way to show us the game. You don't have to spend a lot of money to go to the event to do that, so don't worry. If you have something cool, just shoot a response in the forum. There is also hello@criticalreflex.com. I'm on Twitter, so you'll find a way. If your game is cool, work together.
Maybe to end on some Doom posting, because you kind of said like we get a lot of game pitches. Do you have like a rough number of how many pitches a day you get, or like on a weekly basis? Because I think that's like something of like, you're not the only one. It's like the meme of Buzz Lightyear, and like I'm special, and it like zooms out and it's like 500 of the same roguelite deck builders.
I honestly do not remember. I do think we have a few thousand pitches in the spreadsheet, but how often? Because it comes and goes. We have a hit tweet, and then we have a lot more people applying, and because it kind of works. As we elevate a game, people are like, oh, Critical Reflex are pretty cool. Like, might as well send them the game. So don't worry, like, even if it's massive volumes, we'll still check it out.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. I think that should give you guys some more information on at what point to reach out to publishers. And maybe if you are making a Rita-coded game, reach out to Critical Reflex or other publishers. Yeah, I think it's less scary than most people would think that it is then? Or should you be scared to talk to a publisher?
Well, I mean, depends on the publisher. I'm definitely one of the not scary ones, I hope. But yeah, just stay weird, make awesome games, and hopefully we'll, I'll either play them or we'll publish them, somewhere in between.
All right. Thank you very much for wanting to do this. And thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.